Have you ever played a racing game and thought, wow, this track feels so real?
Yeah.
Well, today we're going behind the scenes to learn how those 3D karting circuits are made.
Awesome.
We've got timelines, blueprints, even some insight into what the pros are using.
Cool.
And we'll even touch on the future of this tech.
Oh, wow.
So by the end of this deep dive, you'll not only know the steps involved in making these tracks,
Right.
but you'll start to appreciate the artistry and the technology that makes these virtual tracks come to life.
It's a lot more than just making a pretty picture.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about recreating the actual physics of the track,
Okay.
the grip, the way a kart handles on different surfaces. It all matters.
And it all starts with real-world scouting, right?
That's right.
Really, they literally go out there with GPS and LiDAR
Yeah.
to capture these existing tracks.
Yeah.
Like, imagine a laser scanner mapping every bump and curve down to the millimeter.
It's pretty crazy.
So why is that level of detail so critical?
Well, think about it like this. You've got a rookie driver
Mm-hmm.
who's prepping for a big race
Yeah,
on a really tricky circuit.
right.
A simulator that uses that level of detail lets them learn all the nuances of the track
Oh, wow.
before they even set foot in a real kart.
Gotcha.
They can practice their braking points, get a feel for the track in different weather conditions, all virtually.
It's about performance then, but also safety too.
Exactly. It can literally be the difference between finishing on the podium or having a disastrous crash.
Okay, so let's say we've got this incredibly detailed scan of a real-world track.
Right.
Where do we go from there?
That's where the 3D modeling magic comes in.
Okay.
And the tools they use are fascinating.
Yeah.
Everything from free software like Blender,
Yeah.
which is great for beginners,
Mm-hmm.
all the way up to these industry giants like Autodesk 3ds Max, which are used for the really complex stuff.
So you've got these different levels of software depending on the project. But it's not just about building the layout of the track. You've got to make it look and feel real too, right?
Absolutely. This is where things get surprisingly artistic.
Oh.
It's not like they just slap on some generic grass texture and call it a day.
Right.
They use tools like Substance Painter
Wow.
to actually recreate the wear and tear you'd see on a real track,
I see.
like the rubber buildup you see on the racing line
Yeah.
from years of karts drifting through those corners.
And that level of detail blows me away.
It's pretty incredible.
Like you can almost smell the burnt rubber and feel the tension in the air just looking at some of these tracks.
Yeah.
So how long does it actually take to create one of these tracks?
Well, it really depends
On what?
on the level of detail and complexity.
Okay.
A basic track could take a week or two.
Still pretty fast.
Yeah. But for the highly detailed ones, especially those recreations of real-world circuits,
Yeah.
those can take months.
Months?
Yeah, sometimes even longer.
Wow. I guess it's kind of like comparing a quick sketch to a hyper-realistic painting.
Exactly.
Both have their place.
Right.
But when you see those super detailed tracks, you can tell there were months of work poured into them.
You can really see the difference.
So who is actually using these 3D circuits?
Oh, lots of people. Of course, you have your professional drivers.
In the simulators?
Right, they rely on them for training and race prep.
Yeah.
But these virtual circuits are also the backbone of countless video games.
Oh, of course.
From those super realistic simulations to the arcade-style racers.
Makes sense.
But get this, they're even being used to design real-world karting facilities before construction even begins.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Well, imagine this. You can design the whole track in the virtual world first.
Okay.
You can experiment with different layouts, elevation changes, all that.
I see.
You can fine-tune every corner and curve to be as exciting and as safe as possible.
Oh, wow.
And you can do all of this before spending any money on actual construction.
That's amazing.
It's revolutionizing how tracks are built.
So it's much more efficient and cost-effective.
Exactly.
You mentioned earlier that even beginners can get started designing tracks with tools like Blender.
Yeah.
Does that mean that anyone with a computer could theoretically create their own dream circuit?
Absolutely. That's what's so exciting about this.
Wow.
The barriers to entry are lower than ever.
I see.
With all the resources available online, like tutorials and communities, you don't have to be a tech genius to get started.
That's really cool.
But it's important to remember that creating these really realistic tracks, especially the ones used by professionals,
Yeah.
it's not exactly easy. There are definitely challenges involved.
Well, the sources we have definitely mention some hurdles,
Yeah.
like mastering the software, for one.
Right. It's a whole new skill set you have to learn.
And even with LiDAR, I imagine getting the data accurate and clean takes a lot of expertise.
Absolutely. It's not a simple point-and-shoot operation.
And then you've got the whole challenge of balancing realism with performance.
That's a big one.
You want those amazing visuals and accurate physics, but the track also has to run smoothly on different devices.
Right, from high-end gaming PCs all the way down to mobile phones.
So finding that sweet spot is tough.
That's a real challenge.
Not to mention the time and cost involved in these projects.
Oh yeah, it can be huge.
So next time you're playing your favorite racing game or you see a pro driver in a simulator, remember what goes on behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
All that artistry, technology, and all the hard work.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is. And speaking of technology, it's changing so fast.
Yeah.
What's really got me fascinated is what's on the horizon for this field.
Me too. Like we've talked about capturing the real world, but what about creating entire new worlds from scratch? Experiences that push the boundaries of what we've seen before.
The future of 3D karting circuits. It's mind-blowing to think about AI, VR, real-time rendering. What's coming next?
Imagine putting on a VR headset and standing in a virtual space.
Yeah.
But you're not just playing the game.
No.
You're actually creating the track.
Oh, wow.
You'd have these hand controllers, and you could shape the terrain, raise hills, carve out corners.
So you're sculpting the track with your own hands.
Yeah. And as you're working, the track is changing in real time around you. No waiting for things to render.
Wow, that's incredible. It'd be like stepping into a video game and becoming the developer. And I know AI is already playing a role in track design,
Right.
helping to automate some of the process. But do you think AI will ever be able to design an entire track on its own?
It's definitely a possibility. I mean, we're already seeing AI being used for stuff like music composition and creating art.
Yeah.
So why not track design? You could feed it certain parameters,
Like what?
difficulty level, driving style,
Oh.
and it could spit out these wild, unpredictable circuits that would really test even the best drivers.
So maybe AI could be the key to making these tools even more accessible.
Exactly. Think about it. Blender is already free, right?
Yeah.
But AI could make track design even easier.
Yeah.
Even people with zero experience could create their own courses.
That would be amazing. Okay, let's fast forward a bit. Say it's 2030, and I want to design my ultimate karting track. What does that process look like with all this amazing technology?
Okay, so you put on your VR headset
Okay.
and you step into this virtual space
Right.
where you can quite literally shape the landscape with your hands, raising hills with a flick of your wrist, carving out hairpin turns with a gesture.
So it's like a mix of virtual reality and that movie Minority Report.
Kind of. And because of real-time rendering,
Yeah.
you can instantly test drive any changes you make. Feel how the kart handles on different surfaces, check the visibility, get a sense of the flow.
So you're the sculptor and the test driver all in one.
Exactly. And if something isn't working,
Yeah.
you just tweak it and test it again. It's a constant back and forth.
But it's fast because of the technology.
Exactly. No more waiting around for things to process.
And once you're happy with your track,
Yeah.
you could share it online, have your friends race on it, host tournaments.
Absolutely. Imagine the possibilities for esports. Tournaments held on AI-generated tracks
Wow.
that are completely different every time.
Talk about unpredictable.
It would take the competition to a whole new level.
This is all so exciting, but let's bring it back down to earth for a second. We've talked about all this amazing potential,
Right.
but what are some of the challenges track designers are facing right now?
Well, mastering the software is still a big one,
Right, you mentioned that earlier.
especially those industry standard tools.
Yeah.
They take real dedication to learn.
And I bet even with LiDAR, capturing real-world data with that level of precision is tough.
It's not easy. It takes a lot of expertise and attention to detail.
And then you've got that balancing act, realism versus performance.
Yep, that's always a challenge.
You want the track to look stunning and have realistic physics.
Yeah.
But it's got to run smoothly on all kinds of devices.
Exactly. High-end PCs all the way down to mobile phones.
Finding that sweet spot is crucial.
It's a constant struggle.
And let's not forget the financial side of things.
Oh, yeah.
Professional-grade software, LiDAR scanners, plus the time invested by skilled artists and developers.
It all adds up.
So when we see those incredible 3D circuits,
Yeah.
it's important to remember it takes a lot of resources to make it happen.
Absolutely. But even with all those challenges,
Yeah.
it's inspiring to see the passion people have for this field.
Yeah, pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
It's really cool to see.
And speaking of pushing boundaries, what about the role of the artist in all of this?
Ah, that's a great point.
We talk about the software and technology, but
Right.
there's a human element too, isn't there?
There is. It's easy to get caught up in the technical side of things,
Yeah.
but we can't forget that technology is just a tool.
So you're saying the artist is still the driving force behind these amazing tracks?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The artist brings the vision, the creativity, the passion.
So it's more than just pixels on a screen.
Exactly. It's about taking those digital elements and turning them into something that feels real.
Creating an experience.
Yeah. The artist makes sure the track has personality, that it's more than just a bunch of corners and straightaways.
It's the difference between a technically perfect photograph
Right.
and one that actually captures a feeling or tells a story.
Exactly. You can have all the technical skills in the world,
Uh-huh.
but without that artistic vision, it's just not the same.
So for someone who's listening to this and thinking, I want to try this,
Yeah.
what advice would you give them?
First of all, don't be afraid to jump in. There's so much information online,
Yeah.
tutorials, communities, all that.
Great resources out there.
Don't get intimidated by the technical stuff.
It can seem overwhelming.
Just have fun and experiment.
And remember, it's a process.
Exactly. You don't have to be an expert right away.
Right.
Just enjoy the learning process.
And who knows? Maybe you'll discover you have a real knack for track design.
You could be the one designing those incredible tracks of the future.
Speaking of the future,
Yeah.
it's time to shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
We've talked about racing games and simulators, but these 3D karting circuits are showing up in some unexpected places.
Oh, yeah. One area that's particularly interesting is the world of architecture and urban planning.
Really?
Yeah.
Architecture.
It might seem strange at first,
It does.
but when you think about it,
Yeah.
a city is kind of like this giant, complex racetrack
Okay.
with all these streets and intersections and buildings,
Uh-huh.
all these obstacles to navigate.
Yeah. Okay, I'm starting to see the connection.
So using the same technology we've been talking about,
Right.
the stuff that creates those immersive karting circuits,
Yeah.
architects and urban planners,
Okay.
they can actually build these incredibly detailed virtual models of entire cities.
So instead of just looking at a blueprint
Right.
or some basic 2D model, they can actually step into a virtual city.
Exactly. They can walk the streets, explore different neighborhoods,
Wow.
see how sunlight hits the buildings,
I see.
even test out different traffic flow patterns.
That sounds like a really powerful tool for urban planners.
It is. Imagine being able to spot potential traffic bottlenecks
Right.
or pedestrian hazards,
Yeah.
all before they break ground on a single building.
Wow. Or they could experiment with different park design.
Exactly. Or
Good.
see how new public transportation routes
Good.
would impact traffic and pedestrian flow.
It's like having this virtual sandbox
Yeah.
where you can test all these different ideas
Uh-huh.
in a realistic way.
It's pretty amazing what you can do with this technology these days.
This whole deep dive has really shown me
Yeah.
that this technology has so many uses.
It really does.
I never would have
Proud.
thought that the same tools used to create those awesome karting circuits
Yeah.
could also be used to design better cities.
It all comes down to creativity.
It really does. People are finding all these new and innovative ways to use these tools.
It's exciting to see where things are headed.
So for our listener, anyone who's been listening to all this and feeling inspired,
Yeah.
what advice would you give them?
Don't be afraid to dive in.
Oh,
There's a
God.
ton of information out there.
Online.
Yeah. Tutorials, communities, all sorts of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Whether you're just starting out
Yeah.
or you want to learn about the latest advancements.
So just explore and have fun.
Exactly. See what you can come up with.
Who knows? Maybe you'll be the one designing those amazing tracks.
Right.
Or even shaping the cities of the future.
That's the beauty of this field. The possibilities are endless.
Well said. Well, folks, that brings us to the finish line of our deep dive.
That was fun.
It really was. We hope you've enjoyed learning about the world of 3D karting circuits.
Yeah.
And maybe you're feeling inspired to explore this fascinating field a little bit further.
Who knows? Maybe you'll design the next big track.
Maybe even a whole city.
The future is wide open.
Absolutely. Until next time, happy racing, everyone.